No way, Paul!
Hey everybody, Venominous here. I know it's been a minute, but such is life. Trying a new system here, not OBS this time, so hopefully this comes in loud and clear. So far it's been working in the test runs. So here we go. Some important stuff to talk about here. This is on Fan-Sided. Anthrax here. Netflix documentary, Anthrax Attacks trailer, release date, synopsis, and more. September is releasing a timely, new investigative documentary film this September about the anthrax attacks that killed 5 Americans and caused at least 17 to fall ill in one of the worst biological attacks in U.S. history. The Anthrax Attacks releases this September ahead of the 21st anniversary of the September 11th terrorist attacks. Why are the two linked? Well, just 1 week after 9/11, people started receiving letters containing deadly anthrax spores. One was thought to be a strange but natural occurrence. Then more followed, putting countless postal workers in jeopardy. A lengthy FBI investigation followed as the attacks unfolded across America and beyond. There's an actual trailer here, but I'm not even going to attempt to play it because I will probably get in trouble if I do. Wait, I lost something. Hold on. There we are. Okay. So why is this important? Well, coincidentally, of course, around the same time we start seeing, well, now it has to load, so it's a little anticlimactic. Now we start seeing anthrax outbreaks in cattle so far. Agricultural Ministry urges caution after 12 animals die from anthrax. This report comes out August 24th of 2022. After the death of 12 animals in RM of Piapot, Saskatchewan, due to anthrax, Saskatchewan agriculture is reminding producers to be on the lookout for anthrax in their animals. Anthrax is a bacteria found in the soil, and it infects mammals. Some mammals, like dogs, are very resistant. Interesting to note. Dogs are resistant, or very resistant, actually. Whereas cattle and bison are more prone to the bacteria. Farm dogs and cats should be kept away from carcasses. The anthrax forms spores that can survive in the environment for years, even decades. There is an effective vaccine available, and Dr. Wendy Wilkins, Disease Surveillance Veterinarian Ministry of Agriculture, says that producers are concerned about anthrax. They should get it. The contact that people will have is what we call cutaneous. That's through the skin, and the bacteria can affect you if your skin is intact. But if you have a cut or scrape, an open wound, if it splashes in your eye, she said, the rate of infection is not as quick or as lethal as if it were to be ingested or inhaled. So anthrax lesions on the skin, they're relatively slow growing and usually treated with antibiotics. That's Klaus. Hi, Klaus. Can you not do this now? Thank you. Yes, so also coincidentally around the same time, federal agents of Canadian government have been caught trespassing on private property of the lands of farmers in Saskatchewan around the same time frame. Nah, nothing to see here, folks. Saskatchewan government demands explanation of feds trespassing of farmers' private property. Now, this is the Environmental and Climate Change Canada, the ECCC. There's your triple C, 333. Klaus, come on, man. Get on the couch. Sit there. When approached, it's our... He's poking at me now. Stop it. You can't get on my lap right now. When approached, it's our understanding that federal employees told the producers that they were testing for pesticide residue and nitrates. Yeah. The ECCC staff has been collecting samples in water bodies at targeted sites. Holy, he's really insistent. Klaus, stop it. Targeted sites across Canada for Health Canada this year. No nitrates or other nutrients are being sampled as part of these sampling activities. So yeah, that's pretty much the story here, but pretty interesting that during this time where we're seeing the reemergence of anthrax, it's around the same time the government's been sending out their secret environmental police agents to go screw around with private property of farmers around the country. So yeah, I don't know. Just a coincidence, folks. But that's not all. There's more. Lots more. Holy, you gotta stop. You gotta just sit right next to me. I'll pet you. Denver, ABC. Confirmed case of anthrax detected in Sedgwick County beef cattle herd. This is a report from July 26th of 2022. Sedgwick County, Colorado. A confirmed case of anthrax was detected in beef cattle herd in Sedgwick County after the producers had 7 acute deaths in the herd, according to the Colorado Department of Agriculture. The CSU Veterinary Diagnostic Laboratory confirmed the case last week. A second positive case was confirmed positive in a nearby beef herd Tuesday. The CDA said it in a press release. Both herds have been quarantined and are being monitored. Quarantine herds, huh? The cattle are being treated with antibiotics and vaccinated against anthrax. The CDA and USDA are also working with the county officials to ensure the infected carcasses are properly disposed of. This is the first confirmed case of anthrax in Colorado cattle since 2012, when more than 75 head of cattle died in a multi-premises outbreak across northeast Colorado, according to the CDA. Anthrax can occur naturally in Colorado's soil, the CDA said. The bacterial spores can lie dormant for decades, then emerge in greater concentrations after rainstorms, flooding, or excavation. So you've been seeing a lot of floods of late. But there's more, folks. Sorry, everything's got to load because I had to restart the computer when I was setting up this program. Anthrax outbreak hits northern Alberta, my old stomping grounds here. Anthrax poses little risk to people, but the disease can decimate herds if not caught in time. This was reported on August 23rd. Warnings have been issued about anthrax outbreak in northern Alberta's Mackenzie County amid hot, dry conditions that favor the disease. Anthrax in grazing beef cows. It's not grazing the beef cows. Have been confirmed on 4 pastures and on a bison ranch. Since the first report on July 14th, 31 cattle and 3 bison out of about 1,700 at-risk animals have died, a spokesperson for the provincial ag ministry said in an email. No further deaths have been observed or reported since August 2nd. All but 2 producers with about 115 animals have vaccinated their cattle for the disease since the outbreak. Others were in the vaccination process. Several isolated cases of anthrax occur nearly every year in Western Canada. According to Alberta beef producers, animals contract the illness by consuming infected soil, feed, or water, causing death within hours. Conditions that increase the risk of soil consumption, tillage, drought, and close-cut hay can also increase the risk. Initial symptoms include weakness, depression, difficulty breathing, a lack of coordination, recumbency, and convulsions. ABP said in a statement, due to the rapid nature of the disease, death is often the first sign producers will see. Well, that's lovely. The carcasses should be carefully covered and secure to prevent scavengers from accessing the carcass and potentially spreading the anthrax spores further. Incineration is the preferred disposal method. Consult your veterinarian or rural municipality. Stop it, Klaus. To find out if incineration... Oh my god, he's so distracting. Incineration is legal in your area, and decide the best fuel to use, the safest way to manage the incineration, and proper cleanup afterwards. Burial can be an option if burning isn't possible, but spores can survive in soil for decades, so the carcass must be buried quickly and deeply, 6 to 8 feet deep. Yeah. We don't need much more there. Let's move on. Fort McMurray today. And we have to wait for it to load, so yay. Reported on July 29th, anthrax outbreak in Wood Buffalo National Park monitored after at least 59 wood bison die. Park is monitoring outbreak in remote area. The staff discovered remains of 59 wood bison that recently died. I don't have anything highlighted. The remains of animals were being examined, but at least 3 are lab-confirmed cases. So 3 out of 59. But, there could be more confirmed since then, because that was over 20 days ago. Let's skip ahead. I included this one even though there is no bison here infected with anthrax. It's still talking about anthrax, so that's important too. Anthrax not impacting bison at PA National Park, but other challenges remain. August 25th, that was reported on. Interesting little highlight. Anthrax occurs after periods of flooding followed by periods of drought and heat, so it really dependent on the conditions where you're going to have an anthrax outbreak. So we've been seeing this year, or at least it's been reported on there, a lot of emphasis put on it. Not necessarily it's like out of the norm, but it's been emphasized a lot about floods and droughts this year, which falls into the whole climate change narrative. But yeah, I digress. Let's go. You gotta stop, Klaus. It's showtime, buddy. Officials confirm anthrax found in Obyte in Uvalde County. You all know Uvalde by now. Austin, Texas Texas Animal Health Commission. Officials received confirmation of anthrax in a Barbary sheep, also known as the Obyte. I don't know if I'm saying that right. On a premises in Uvalde County on August 18, 2022. This is the first case of anthrax in Texas this year. The premises is located 16 miles northwest of Uvalde, Texas, and has been quarantined. Dun dun dun. Yeah, you get the point. Same story. Quarantine, yada yada yada. That's more in it. More anthrax talk. Which one is this? Ah, yes. There's some in humans now too. 7 kids fall ill and ASR anthrax is suspected. This is reported on August 27th. Health officials are suspecting that 7 children who fell ill in Doraguda village under Laxamparam Pangchayat of Manchingaput, a bunch of words. District might have been infected with anthrax. Officials sent the blood samples to the King George Hospital in Visakhapatnam for tests. The tribals of the remote village on the Andhra-Odisha border, AOB, had consumed the meat of dead cattle 10 days ago. Meat consumption problems. After this, 7 children showed symptoms of anthrax. Well, they should have ate the crickets. U.S. Army Colonel is Brent. What? Where'd this come from? This is not the story. They changed it. What? What's going on here? Blooper reel. Right, here we go. Boy 1 has massive, rapidly enlarging lesion erupt on his butt after suffering anthrax infection. Poor kid. A 1-year-old boy was infected with cutaneous anthrax, causing a massive oozing lesion to erupt on his buttocks. So 1-year-old boy suffered. Okay, just keep saying it over again. They love saying it over again. An Indian research team reports that the boy was brought in for treatment 7 days after the lesion, which was painless, so that's good. Appeared on his left buttocks. It erupted rapidly in the coming days, growing and eventually becoming necrotic as the tissues surrounding the lesion died. Yuck. Sorry, a pop-up thing. The boy was diagnosed with cutaneous anthrax. The most common form of the infection is the least deadly version of the condition, but is still dangerous in its own rights. It is often transferred to humans via interaction with a cow, goat, or sheep, though this child had no known contact with an infected animal. Anthrax is a highly contagious highly dangerous, but incredibly rare disease. The last confirmed case in the U.S. was 2011. Cutaneous anthrax is still an occasional issue in developing nations that do not have the resources to launch veterinary public health programs. So yeah, yada 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 goes on. Types of anthrax. Cutaneous anthrax. Cutaneous anthrax is the most common form of anthrax infection, and it is also considered to be the least dangerous. Infection usually develops from 1 to 7 days after exposure. When anthrax spores get into the skin, usually through a cut or scrape, a person can develop cutaneous anthrax. This can happen when a person handles infected animals or contaminated animal products like wool, hides, or hair. Cutaneous anthrax is most common on the head, neck, forearms, and hands. It affects the skin and tissues around the site of infection. Without treatment, up to 20% of people with cutaneous anthrax die. However, with proper treatment, almost all patients with cutaneous anthrax survive. So that's pretty good. I mean, you still got 80% chance of survival if you didn't do anything to treat it, which isn't too bad, but still, would you risk that? Inhalation anthrax. This is the most deadly. Inhalation anthrax is considered to be the most deadly form of anthrax. Infection usually develops within a week after exposure. It could take up to 2 months. That's interesting. When a person breathes in anthrax spores, they can develop inhalation anthrax. People who work in places such as wool mills, slaughterhouses, and tanneries may breathe in the spores when working with infected animals or contaminated animal products from infected animals. Well, that's going to really crush the industry, right? It's got your wool mills, slaughterhouses, and tanneries. It's all animal-based industries. So if there's an outbreak that happens in the animals and it spreads over these factories, well, bye-bye meat for another. It could be the end, really. It could be the nail in the coffin, because they're already having such a hard time with all the other stuff that's been happening. Inhalation anthrax starts primarily in the lymph nodes in the chest before spreading throughout the rest of the body, ultimately causing severe breathing problems and then shock. Without treatment, inhalation anthrax is almost always fatal. However, with aggressive treatment, about 55% of patients survive, so you have just over half of a chance of survival, even with treatment. It's pretty bad. Gastrointestinal anthrax has rarely been reported in the United States. Infection usually develops from 1 to 7 days after exposure. When a person eats raw or undercooked meat from an animal infected with anthrax, they can develop gastrointestinal anthrax. Once ingested, anthrax spores can affect the upper gastrointestinal tract, throat and esophagus, stomach, and intestines, causing a wide variety of symptoms. Without treatment, more than half of patients with gastrointestinal anthrax die. However, with proper treatment, 60% of patients survive. So still a 40% chance to die there. It's crazy. And then there's a fourth one, injection anthrax. Jabby jabby. This type of infection has never been reported in the United States. Recently, another type of anthrax infection has been identified in heroin injecting drug users in Northern Europe. Symptoms may be similar to those of cutaneous anthrax, but there may be infection deep under the skin or in the muscle where the drug was injected. Injection anthrax can spread throughout the body faster and be harder to recognize and treat. Lots of other more common bacteria can cause skin and injection site infections. So a skin or injection site infection in a drug user does not necessarily mean the person has anthrax. Alrighty. What are the treatments, people? Anthrax vaccination. Vaccines recommended for travel in some specific groups. There is a vaccine that can help prevent anthrax, a serious infection caused by the bacterium Bacillus anthracis. However, this vaccine is not typically available for the general public. It is only recommended for people who are at increased risk of coming into contact with or have already been exposed to B. anthracis. Talk with your healthcare professional if you have questions about the anthrax vaccine. So interesting, just like with the whole pox thing, with their whole vaccine stuff, like AdCam 2000, it's not for general use, general public. This too is the same situation. Now, I haven't read anything about the dangers of these vaccines. It's something I'll have to look into. Now, we're going to move on to the section where what I like to call the subliminal planting of the narrative in people's heads, not just with direct reports, but with associated things such as the band Anthrax, which just happens to be doing touring and just like being in the news all the time now around the same time as the outbreaks. Isn't that funny? A band that's, long past its prime. So interview Scott Ian of the future of Mr. Bungle, Anthrax XL, asking Mike Patton to sing with Anthrax and more. That's just one. Two. Wait, when was that reported? 25th of August. This one is also 25th of August. Watch the Life Project covers Anthrax caught in a mosh at Michigan concert. This the two words together, Anthrax caught. Catching anthrax. Anthrax caught. Very interesting. There's another one. Sorry, everything has to load. Anthrax tapped. Familiar face understudy for the summer tour. This was August 16th. Anthrax now apparently now have an understudy should illness, injury, or unexpected absence strike. But anyways, yeah. There's more, but it's not all just Anthrax, the band. There's more talk of Anthrax in other stuff. Can a smallpox drug treat monkeypox? Here's what scientists know. We scroll down. And what is it talking about? What is tencovermonate and how does it work? After a 2001 anthrax attacks in the United States, in which letters laced with spores of the lethal bacterium, which were sent to media organizations and politicians, the U.S. National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Diseases and Bethesda. Oh, Bethesda. I know that word. I know that name. Bethesda, Maryland. It was looking funny before. Received a funding boost to develop treatments against pathogens with the potential to be used as bioweapons. Biosecurity officials were especially worried about smallpox, which can kill up to 30% of the people who are infected. Although the disease was eradicated more than 40 years ago, the concern was that smallpox virus can be accidentally released from or weaponized by laboratories around the world where samples are still kept. So even though this whole story, this report, August 25th, is not about anthrax specifically, it is also mentioned, and very specifically mentioning the Anthrax Attacks, because as we all know, there is a new TV show coming out on Netflix called Anthrax Attacks, and this is good publicity for that. And here's some more. Fauci is stepping down from his roles in the NIH and Biden administration in December to pursue the next chapter of his career, but urges he's not retiring. August 22nd. And scroll down. Anthrax attacks. Yes, because he's been working on all these, these things. Moving on. You get the point. Mentioned there. And we have another one. Two more. This is interesting, this one. Opinion. Other voices, Colorado senators do nothing to stop fentanyl. The Greeley Tribune. We scroll down. This is August 26th. Okay, we'll start right here. Colorado lost 900 residents just last year to fentanyl, and 29 were children. Poisonings have increased by nearly 20 times the number from 10 years ago. Those mourning fentanyl victims typically say their loved ones died of poisoning, not traditional drug abuse. In the case of preteen children, nearly all deaths involve accidental ingestion. With this poison, most adult victims think they are using a less harmful substance, not knowing a dealer laced it with fentanyl. If anthrax-laced envelopes killed 900 Coloradans last year, politicians would turn their focus to ensure it never happens again. It is all we would hear about. They would keep the killer out of our homeland and spare no expense. What an interesting choice. In making your point, you chose anthrax. Out of all the things you could have chose to make your point. Anthrax. People. That's the supplanting of your ideas, your narratives in your head. It's subconscious. From anthrax in the Arctic to tick-borne illness at home, climate change worsens disease. August 19th. We all know about mosquitoes and ticks in Minnesota and the diseases they carry. Lyme disease, West Nile virus, dengue, fever, and are increasing as our climate warms. In fact, 58% of human pathogenic diseases are aggravated by climate change. Really? Got proof on that? How? That's occurring into a study published in Nature's Climate Change this month. I'm sure it's chock full of facts. But anyways, that's it for subconscious programming. Let's go on to some predictive programming. Now, y'all know about Nuclear Threat Initiative and the whole monkeypox tabletop exercise. Well, I've talked about the other one, the 2022 tabletop exercise by the NTI and Munich Security Conference. It was their 4th annual tabletop exercise on reducing high-consequence biological threats. Let's scroll to the good stuff. The exercise scenario involved a localized bioweapons attack against cattle in the fictitious country of Adoraban with a genetically engineered strain of the Ahmeda virus. While the attack was intended to cause targeted economic damage, the virus quickly spills over into humans and continues to spread, rapidly evolving into a global pandemic. The global response is complicated by the challenges attributing the source of the pandemic, lack of coordination across sectors at the national and international levels, and by cyber intrusions. Affecting public health systems. Over 20 months, the scenario evolves into a globally catastrophic pandemic leading to 2.2 billion cases and more than 120 million deaths. NTI will publish a report in the coming months summarizing key findings from the exercise discussions, putting forward recommendations, blah, blah, blah. Looking forward to that coming out, because then I'm sure there'll be clips from this, their little simulated newsreels. I want to see that. Because look, April 3rd, 2020, what? 23? When are they saying this is going to happen? Anyways. But why am I talking about Ahmeda virus? That's not anthrax. No, but there's some interesting similarities. Similar enough that you could exchange one for the other in a way. So this is from 2021, the Wilderness Environmental Medicine. Disease, ecology, epidemiology, clinical manifestations, management, prevention, and control of increasing human infections with animals and orthopox viruses. Let's scroll down to the good stuff. Oh wait, I think I have to do yeah, I gotta find it. So here. So it's just talking about clinical manifestations of laboratory confirmations of animal orthopox virus infections. We go down here. In addition to smallpox, the differential diagnosis of all orthopox virus infections, it should include chickenpox, Varicella zoster, herpes simplex, shingles, herpes zoster, Cutaneous anthrax, bubonic plague, Bartonella spp, infections, ulcer, tick-borne disease. Interesting, because they're similar. Interesting story here on the CDC. Thinking outside the cowpox, discovery of pox-related virus. After a 2012 visit from the CDC pox virus team, health officials in the country of Georgia knew to look out for cowpox among residents of the region, which sits in the Black Sea and is bordered by Turkey, Armenia, Azerbaijan, and Russia. But 8 months later, when 2 cattle herders showed up with fever and pox-like skin lesions, Georgian health officials and the CDC poxvirus team discovered something they were not looking for: a previously unknown orthopox virus, Achmetavirus. I like the metavirus, the metaverse. So, identifying Achmetavirus, the CDC poxvirus team had just visited scientists at Georgia Ministry of Health and Ministry of Agriculture to raise their awareness about the signs, symptoms, prevention of cowpox, a species of orthopox virus genus, which includes monkeypox and smallpox. This was late in 2012. Just 8 months later, in July 2013, 2 Georgian herdsmen from the Achmeta region sought medical care for fever and skin lesions. Neither had been vaccinated for smallpox, and they tested negative for anthrax infection. An infection among rural herders in Georgia. Recalling what they had learned from the CDC poxvirus team, the Georgian National Center for Disease Control and Public Health, NCDC, suspected cowpox and sent swabs from the herdsman's lesions to the CDC laboratory for testing. The samples did contain orthopox virus, but they did not genetically match any known pox virus. Scroll down. Taking a One Health approach, which recognizes the health of humans, animals, and the environment are connected. Health officials from the CDC, the Georgia's Ministry of Health and Ministry of Agriculture, NCDC, tested serum samples from people who were in contact with a sickened herdsman, the cattle in their herd, and rodents trapped in surrounding areas. The findings indicated that 10 of 11 cattle in the herd, as well as many of the people and small amounts tested, had previously been infected with orthopox viruses. The team also went back and retested samples that had been submitted and tested negative for anthrax infection since 2009. Interestingly, they found a sample from 2010 that was genetically similar, but though not identical, to Achmetavirus. The sample came from someone who had regular contact with cattle, had not been vaccinated for smallpox, and had been in a different area of Georgia than the original herdsman found in Georgia. Have an Achmetavirus. Sorry, I'm dying here. I need some water. Going forward with the collaborative effort, the CDC poxvirus team is conducting a 3-year animal surveillance study to better understand how the new virus spreads. In addition, NCDC labs will now test all anthrax native isolates for orthopox viruses and other common causes of illness with symptoms of fever and skin lesions, including parapox virus and some stuff. So I just thought it was interesting how they're similar. So in theory, this tabletop exercise, you could trade one out for the other, right? So the Achmetavirus could be traded out for anthrax, really, in a way, for their scenario. But I digress. Let's go to some more predictive programming. I just wanted to take a moment here to remind everyone of this little comic strip, the Anthrax comic of 2017. Whereas here comes our favorite straight from Rome, the champion with some big Roman numeral number of victories. The one they call the masked Auriga, the great coronavirus, and his faithful Bacillus. Bacillus anthraxis, perhaps? Pan 1, Pan 2? Just a thought. Also, some more predictive programming. You all should know by now how much I talk about Brave New World. I think it's a very prescient book.
The 9 Years' War.
And it has a lot. Hey, don't you do that yet? It has a lot of the predictive programming in it. So much of the agenda in it. So, give me a second. Klaus is trying to attack me again, so I'll fight him off. Just wanted to mute my microphone and play this for you. You gotta stop, Klaus. Honestly, stop. Just stop. Just stop.
Began in AF 141. Phosgene, chloropicrin, diphenylcyanacine in the Kurfürstendamm and the 8th arrondissement. The explosion of the anthrax bombs was hardly louder than the popping of a paper bag. Bombs was Kurfürstendamm and the 8th arrondissement. The explosion of the anthrax bombs was hardly louder than the popping of a paper bag. The explosion of the anthrax bombs was hardly louder than the popping of a paper bag. The explosion of the anthrax bombs was hardly louder than the popping of a paper bag. The 9 Years' War, the great economic collapse. There was a choice between world control and destruction, between stability and chaos.
Yes, Klaus?
Community, identity, stability.
In the end, the controllers realized that force was no good. The slower but infinitely surer methods of ectogenesis, neo-Pavlovian conditioning, and hypnopedia were applied, accompanied by a campaign against the past, by the closing of museums, the blowing up of historical monuments, by the suppression of all books published before AF 150, straight from the mouth of our Ford himself.
Klaus?
History
Is bunk.
The introduction of R. Ford's first T-model was chosen as the opening date of the new era, and the ethics and philosophy of underconsumption, and 6 years later, Soma was being produced commercially. The perfect drug. All the advantages of Christianity and alcohol, with none of their defects.
Klaus, 1 cubic centimeter.
Cures 10 gloomy sentiments.
All right. You get it. Popping of the anthrax bomb. You gotta stop, Klaus. Sorry. The popping of the anthrax bombs. Yes, of the 9 Years' War that brought about the one world government. I shit you not, folks. You can't, like, could it be more dead on lately? It's pretty ridiculous. Hey, let's move on. I will pet you after I record. Frickin' cat. Anthrax weaponization is the development and deployment of the bacterium Bacillus anthracis, or more commonly, its spore referred to as anthrax, as a biological weapon. It just says it twice. As a biological weapon. Anthrax has been used in biowarfare and bioterrorism since 1914. However, in 1975, the Biological Weapons Convention prohibited the development, production, and stockpiling of biological weapons. It has since been used in bioterrorism. Anthrax spores can cause infection from inhalation, skin contact, ingestion, or injection, and when untreated can lead to deaths. Likely delivery methods of weaponized anthrax include aerial dispersal or dispersal through livestock. Notable bioterrorism uses include the 2001 anthrax attacks and an incident in 1993 by Aram Shinrikyo group in Japan. That's the group that they modeled their Cladex tabletop exercise of 2018 by the Johns Hopkins University for their Cladex, for their bioterrorism, synthetic virus attack. Yeah, anyways. Potential threat to the population economy. Anthrax spores are able to be dispersed via multiple methods and infect humans with ease. The symptoms present as a common cold or flu. Yes, because that's like everything. And may take weeks before appearing. Destructive effects of anthrax attack on a large city may have the destructive capacity of a nuclear weapon. Ding, 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 ding. Have you been programmed for that lately or what? They're saying that it is as dangerous as detonating a nuclear weapon. Threat to population. Mathematical model of the simulated large-scale airborne anthrax attack in a large city. 1 kilogram of anthrax spores in a city of 10 million people was created, which takes into account the dispersion of spores, the age-dependent dose response, the dynamics of disease progression, and the timing of organization of medical intervention. The results of the model with the most efficient medical response resulted in more than 100,000 deaths, which increases by a factor of 7 with slower antibiotic distribution. Threat to the economy. Outside initial threat to individuals, there are costs of economic disruption, decontamination, and treatment from such an event. The economic costs of the 2001 anthrax attacks resulted in over $100 million being spent to decontaminate postal plants. The contamination is thought to have been less than 1 gram of anthrax spores in the facilities. The cost to decontaminate the Hart Senate office building after 2001 anthrax attacks cost approximately $23 million, with approximately 2 grams of anthrax spores present. Yeah, I'm sure they pocketed 22 million of that, but whatever. Containment and avoidance. Yeah, let's move on. Methods of dispersal. Aerial. The passive dispersal of anthrax spores aerially has occurred from rooftops. There's that group again. From aircraft, Operation Cherry Blossoms at Night, or potentially as suggested in 2002 by United States President George W. Bush, a small container and 1 terrorist. Missile. An intercontinental ballistic missile warhead containing anthrax may be able to effectively disperse anthrax spores. Yay! North Korea is believed to be conducting tests on anthrax-filled warheads, which may be deployed on Hwasong-15 missiles, which could be used to contaminate areas such as military bases in a time of war for periods of months. The concerns of re-entry temperatures and pressure of the anthrax-filled warhead are able to be overcome by thermal insulation of the payload. Bomb. There's your anthrax bombs. Similar to a warhead, an anthrax-filled bomb, such as the E-61 anthrax bomblet, or other N-bomb cluster munition filled with anthrax spores, could allow an area to be contaminated for months or decades. In the case of Grunard Island, testing N-bomb cluster munition containing anthrax spores contaminated the island from 1942 until a decontamination effort in 1986. Wild. And livestock. Anthrax spores are not only able to be used as a weapon to directly infect humans, they are also able to target livestock, which may lead to transmission of anthrax between both animals and humans. This method may use another mechanism to infect livestock, where inevitably the livestock become a mechanism to disperse anthrax themselves and also result in the loss of the livestock. However, it can be achieved with direct feeding, such as the cattle cakes containing anthrax spores, which were kept on hand by the Royal Air Force for aerial dispersal during the Second World War. This was to be used in retaliation to any biological warfare by Nazi Germany. Oh, goody. So yeah, very easy to spread this around, really. But let's move on. We're going to get into the treatments and stuff real quick, and then we'll wrap it up. Project BioShield Act. The Project BioShield Act was an act passed in the United States Congress in 2004 calling for $5 billion for purchasing vaccines that would be used in the event of bioterrorist attack. This was a 10-year program to acquire medical countermeasures to biological, chemical, radiological, and nuclear agents for civilian use. A key element of the act was to allow stockpiling and distribution of vaccines which had not been tested for safety or efficacy in humans due to ethical concerns. Efficacy of such agents cannot be directly tested in humans without also exposing humans to the chemical, biological, and radioactive threat being tested, so testing follows the FDA animal rule for pivotal animal efficacy. So this was pretty much a direct result of the whole anthrax attacks. So that's pretty much why it all started up, essentially, was the anthrax attacks. Let's move on. Just wanted to brush up on that so you're all familiar. Paratech secures BARDA funding to develop Nuzera antibiotic for pulmonary anthrax, September 28th of 2021. The Biomedical Advanced Research Development Authority has awarded an option under Paratech Pharmaceuticals Incorporated Project BioShield contract. The option provides additional funding to continue developing Nuzera, some long word. Actually, I can say that, omadacycline, under the FDA Animal Efficacy Rule Development Program to support a supplemental new drug application. I just lost my place as soon as I read that. Did I scroll? Oh, there, I did. New drug application for post-exposure prophylaxis and treatment of pulmonary anthrax. In December of 2019, BARDA awarded Paratech a contract valued at up to approximately $285 million. With additional funding, the contract is now valued at roughly $304 million. BARDA and Paratech have formalized their previous communicated agreement to trigger the next procurement of positive top-line data from the efficacy study of inhalation anthrax in rabbits, which Paratech currently anticipates will be available in 2H of 2022. BARDA and Paratech have also agreed on specific development milestones to trigger the third and fourth procurements. Yippee! This was August 25th reporting. Anthrax treatment market, new opportunities! Yay! Segmentation details with financial facts by 2029. This should not all be highlighted, but it is. I'm not reading it all. Anthrax treatment market reports extend from market scenarios to comparative pricing between major players, cost and profit of specified market regions. When globalization is intensifying day by day, many business calls for global market research for actionable markets insights to support decision making. Market drivers and markets restraints are mentioned in the markets, and yeah, you get the point. Markets. The premium anthrax treatment market report study key opportunities in the market and influencing factors provide, which is useful to take the business to the highest level by including detailed statistics and market research. Oh my god, it's so boring. Here's some of the key market players mentioned in this report. Alembic Pharmaceuticals, Integrated Biotherapeutics Incorporated, Sun Pharmaceutical Industries Limited, Zydus Group, Bayer AG, or Bayer Ag, Pfizer Incorporated, Emergent, Sanofi, Alucis Therapeutics, Portion Biopharma, Lupin, Sulingenex, Takeda Pharmaceuticals. Key market analysis and insights. Global anthrax treatment market is driven by the factors such as rising incidence in bacterial infections, increasing research funding, and the development of novel therapies for anthrax treatment and pipeline products. Yay! Get your treatments. The scary disease is out there. August 2nd. Big changes ahead for how troops battle future chemical biological threats. So Baltimore, over the next few years, troops working closely with chemical, biological, radiological, and nuclear threats. Stop poking me, class. Nuclear threats will get new suits, gloves, and better detective devices. Those are small, though important changes in how they can better combat a growing list of nasty threats that do not always involve bullets and missiles. But what will really change their work is a combined threat review, new strategy, and increased funding to push CBRN to forefront of defense thinking. The larger pivot and transformation that one senior defense official signaled at a conference devoted to the trade of defeating such threats is a comprehensive posture review, increased funding across multiple years, and a new way to integrate CBRN defense into everything troops do. Adding another layer of data mining and machine learning will help frontline CBRN better face currently unknown dangers that threaten to overwhelm defense civilian emergency response in the ways that could exceed the COVID-19 pandemic. Oh boy. We are not going to figure it out as we go, Rosenblum said. We need a radical transformation, I'll tell you what. Rosenblum characterized the growing chemicals and biological threat as vastly more difficult and rapidly changing. Multiple speakers throughout the two-day event hammered away that the old days of one bug, one drug are gone. That is the methodology that existed for decades with threats such as smallpox or anthrax, both deadly viruses that do have existing vaccinations. While COVID-19 came from human-animal contact, current and future threats may be designed by adversaries such as Russia, China, North Korea, Iran, or non-state actors, specifically to confound existing identification tools that masks who made it, what it is, and how to treat it. So yeah, this is the longer piece. But yeah, you get the point. They're going hard, man. I think I got a couple older ones here. Yeah, this is 2015. U.S. funding research of better anthrax vaccine. BioThrax that required 3 doses is now emergency-approved vaccine called Nutrax is the updated version of BioThrax, which has been stockpiled by the government to protect against potential bioterrorism attacks. Altimmune completes merger with Pharmathene, creating immunotherapeutics company targeting infectious diseases. May 4th of 2017. Here's some of the drugs they have. Sparvax L, a next generation lyophilized anthrax vaccine. NIAID funded that may be stored at room temperature and provides extended shelf life. A non-human primate bridging study is anticipated to begin during the second half of 2017 with data anticipated during the first half of 2018. NasoShield, an intranasal single-dose first-class anthrax vaccine, BARDA funded, that's based on preclinical studies, may offer protection within a few weeks of administration. Phase 1 trials expected to begin during first quarter 2018 with data anticipated by second quarter 2018. There's all the exciting things. But here's the real one, the real kicker here. Trump official in charge of national stockpile bet big on smallpox and anthrax, cut infectious disease funds. This was May 5th of 2020. I've reported on this thing before, but now it has new meaning. Now it's got another kick to it. Had the U.S. been attacked by anthrax or weaponized smallpox, Robert Cadlick would have looked prescient. Instead, the U.S. and the world got a deadly new coronavirus, and the U.S. Strategic National Stockpile, which Cadlick oversees, was unprepared, the Washington Post reports. Cadlick, a longtime biodefense expert, was confirmed as head of the Health and Human Service Department's Office of the Assistant Secretary for Preparedness and Response, ASPR, in August of 2017. He immediately began shifting his office's focus to biologic attacks, intentional attacks, terrorist attacks, and definitely away from natural disease outbreaks, a former official told the Post. HHS transferred control of the national stockpile to ASPR from the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention in 2018 over the objections of some national security and public health officials. Cadlick streamlined the process for purchasing supplies for the stockpile, diminishing the role of government experts and restricting decision-making to himself and a small circle of advisors. The Post reports he oversaw a $2.8 billion 10-year contract for smallpox vaccines at double the cost per dose with a former client, Emergent Biosolutions, a relationship he did not mention on his Senate disclosure forms, and ramped up purchases of anthrax vaccines. At the same time, ASPR slashed planned funding for pandemic flu and infectious disease preparedness, including halting an Obama-era initiative to spend $35 million to build a machine that could produce 1.5 million N95 masks per day, the Post reports, after HHS Secretary Alex Azar assigned him to lead the department's coronavirus response. In March, Cadlick's office signed contracts for $2.3 billion worth of ventilators and $486 million for masks, including $62.3 million from O&M Halyard, the contractor whose rapid mask machine Cadlick axed in 2018. Cadlick told the Post he's proud of his decades government service, including his efforts to centralize authority at ASPR, and his actions are consistent with his longtime views on biodefense. Quite frankly, Mother Nature is not a thinking enemy intent on inflicting grievous harm to our country, killing our citizens, undermining our government, or destroying our way of life, Cadlick told Congress in 2011. Mother Nature doesn't develop highly virulent organisms that are resistant to our current stockpiles of antibiotics. In March, he told a House committee in his office did not consider a situation like this today, with respirators being our first and only line of defense for healthcare workers. So, yeah. The man focused on biodefense. He knew it was coming. Because, they know these things in advance, right? But yeah, I thought that was had a whole new kick to it with the whole anthrax thing popping up now, because you got your smallpox aspect, your anthrax aspect, even though they're doing it through monkeypox at first. But I suspect that eventually they'll claim it's smallpox will be back or something. It's just a matter of time. But anyways, that was important to get out there. I was hoping to do it sooner, but, things happen. Thank you so much for your time and attention. I appreciate it as always. Let me know if I come in nice and loud and clear for you all, because that was an issue with my microphone previously. And yeah, share your comments and thoughts on this whole thing. What do you think is... do you think we're getting close to the whole pan 2 there? Do you think it's the pox or anthrax or something else? Do you think it'll be the flu? Because it could be all three. I mean, it could be one of the three. Who knows? They're hitting us with their best shots here. And with that said, if you like the content I'm putting out, please like it, share it. If you would like to support my work, there's ways to do so in the links in the description below. With that said, this is Venomous reporting from the Brave New World, and I'll catch you all next time.